racism, institutional racism, is in the DNA of this country. When you look at what has taken place, look at our Native Americans, the genocide of Native Americans. When you look at what is taking place as it relates to African Americans, the 250 years plus of enslaving African Americans, and then you look at the disparities now in our community in terms of health care, unemployment, the wealth gap, housing. You can't tell me that systemic racism does not exist. It's not just a
I can tell you that racism does not, systemic racism doesn't exist.
Personal racism, which is hard to address.
So personal racism exists, right? I agree. Personal racism exists. I can never face racism. You face racism everywhere you go, Barbara Lee. But when you start talking about institutional racism, this is where the problem starts arising. Because you start asking, hey, I want equal outcomes, even though I don't do equal decisions. How can you become a doctor and someone else decides to be a janitor and you expect to get paid the same? You see how that don't correlate? If more white people become doctors and more black people become janitors comparative to each other, and white people make more money, that's not because of racism. That's because majority of white people decide to be doctors while majority of black people decide to be janitors. Boom, I just explained the disparity right there and then. But she wants to attribute it to race. She wants to attribute that, oh, the system's been holding black people down. No. Black people themselves have been holding each other down. They pass down generations of bad information, bad values, bad habits, bad decision making. And the values themselves create the outcome that we experience today. And instead of taking accountability for that, instead of black people looking themselves in the mirror and say, hey, we need to fix it. We need to change our behaviors. We need to change our habits. We need to change what we value in our culture. No. Let's scapegoat it and say it was because of systematic racism. The only thing that's systematically affecting black people today is the culture and values that we pass on to the next generation. The culture of I don't need no man, baby mama culture, fatherless home culture, and all the results of fatherlessness homes. Fatherless homes are more prone to poverty than married homes. Boom, that's half of the problem right there. If you grew up with a single mom, you're more prone to poverty than if you grew up in a two-parent household. A community that has 70% of their children born to single mothers, and you're surprised why the black community is economically at the bottom compared to other groups of people. Surprise, surprise. And I didn't even mention race not one time. My argument is if any community decides to be 70% single motherhood, they'll have the exact same results that black people have today. This is one of my hard-hitting arguments that behavior drives your outcomes. If black people do not change their behavior, they're always going to get the same outcomes. So instead of using the energy to correct their own actions and behaviors, they rather use their energy to have everyone make excuses and give them special considerations because they're not willing to change themselves. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But I digress. Let's go. It's only a 30-second video, and I'm already rambling.
But I'll give you one little story that shows you why we need to understand that I don't think she really understands racism. I was walking from the House building on Capitol Hill to the Capitol, and a white guy, stopped me and told me I could not get into the members' elevator. And, we have pens, and I was going to vote. And he blocked me from getting into the elevator and told me I was not a member of Congress and it was for members only. I said, sir, I'm a member of Congress. And I showed him my pen, and he said, whose pen did you steal? Now, this is an example of what personal racism is and how people of color constantly have to deal with this each and every day. But systemic racism is in the policies of this country, and just look at what they're trying to do in terms of eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're trying to
eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion is merely saying, here's an example. Diversity and inclusion, let's say diversity, DEI, was applied in a basketball game. And they say it's unfair that tall people get to score such points so much easier than short people. So as a penalty, we're going to deduct 1 point from tall players. So when a tall player make a 3, it's a 2. And when short players make a 3, it's a 4. We add a point for the short players. You're putting your thumb on the scale on the results of the game based on your personal preference of what you think will level out because of historical wrongs in society. And that's not curing racism. You're not racist for saying that you don't want DEI. You're saying, hey, It doesn't matter if a tall player makes a three or a short player makes a three. The results should be the same. It's a three. You get 3 points for it. We shouldn't be deducting points. We shouldn't be giving someone extra points because they happen to be a short player, a underrepresented player, a minority in the NBA. We don't play that game. And all we're saying is, hey, everyone play by the same rules. Equal opportunity, equal judgment. Not having, oh, because of you're black, even though you're not such a good player, we give you an extra point on the criteria because we're trying to get more of you in the game. DEI is racism under new management. Affirmative action is racism. You're discriminating against people based on the color of their skin. This is the people that see color. And personal racism aside, I can make an argument about ageism. I'm a young guy. I'm 27 years old, right? So I own a house, right? Which is not common for someone my age. And when I go do like taxes and stuff, people look at me, they go, and they see my income, they go, you're 27 years old? I thought you were older. Now, imagine let's say I switch the age and I said and they say, oh, you make so much money. Oh, you own a house? Oh, that's impressive for a black guy. Oh, now you want me to be offended about that. When if you look at the odds, the average black man my age at 27 years old is not in my position. So of course a lot of people are going to be surprised about where I'm at in life. But this is the problem I have. This is why victimhood is losing ground, right? It's the boy who cried wolf scenario. You cry and cry and cry enough, and people are going to start saying, they're going to start ignoring you. Grimes Meadow said if it had happened, it would have been on camera. She would have been proudly showing it off the footage, and I'm surprised she didn't say and told her this is a mega elevator. Exactly. Jussie Smollett, right? Let's finish it off. 15 seconds, and then we'll go deeper into some of the victimhood narratives.
To not allow for an equal and level playing field. And so it's a very dangerous position that she...
I'm sorry, but I feel like I have to talk about everything she says. How is DEI creating an equal and leveled playing field? An equal level playing field is we are on solid ground. We ain't going to give booster seats to, oh, here you go, short player here. You're going to booster seats. No, you're already creating an advantage. And you're creating a handicap. How's that a fair game? We're not all born like these people don't understand what diversity is. I'm born to a family of 3 boys, and all of us all have different outcomes. Came from the same upbringing, grew up in the same location, share the same DNA, similar DNA, as close as it can be, and they have different outcomes. I don't understand where they get this dumb idea that equality is achievable across all racial groups, all human beings, when every human is a unique individual. Unique DNA that will never be, another DNA will never be before and will never be after. And they, in their minds, they think they can create equal outcomes. You only can create equal outcomes by disadvantaging one community and giving an over advantage to the other. And that you only can do that to an authoritarian means. If you believe in liberty, if you believe in freedom, instantly you're going to have different outcomes. Because everyone has different abilities, different strengths, different weaknesses, different interests. And to try to control that, you have to do it through an authoritarian means. This is why I laugh when the Democrats try to sit here and act like they're not the authoritarian party. Because they're here trying to force outcomes that is not realistic in our society. You want 50% representation of black people in representation, or 30%. And in some of these job fields, they're pushing DEI, like in STEM and technology, like science, technology, engineering, and math. There's not enough black people to realistically meet these quotas that they set in corporate America. But hey, I'm getting ahead of myself, right? 8 seconds.
She's clueless.
Well, that's a shame, and I'm sorry that you had to deal with that, Congresswoman. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, no one believes her, especially not in 2024. This is the least racist that America has ever been, and you expect us to sit here and believe that a white man stopped you from coming into an elevator? Barbara Lee. You telling me a man that worked at a Capitol didn't know who you are? I don't know how long you've been in Congress, Barbara Lee, but you telling me no one knows who you are? That someone's just gonna randomly stop you? Come on, bro. Dinesh D'Souza, I don't believe the story. It has that Jussie Smollett ring of inauthenticity. Caitlin Collins' uncritically reaction, and this is part of the liberal media, right? When something fits the liberal media's narrative, they don't want to question it. Adds to the atmosphere of political fakery. This is a fantastic story tale. Might have worked in the past, but now we are on the lies. Exactly. And this is a pattern I'm starting to notice. Like collectivism. Oh, why should I suffer for the sins of my ancestors? Why should white people feel guilty about their skin color just because people who share their skin color did bad things? It makes no sense. You can't justify that. Here's a tip, white people. If some black person try to make you feel guilty, I give you permission. You don't need to feel guilty about your skin color. If I don't have to feel guilty about my skin color, you shouldn't have to feel guilty about my skin color. How about that? Let's start there. How about this? White people, only 5% of y'all own slaves. How about that? Let's play that. Only 5% of y'all have any ties to slavery. Yet black people want to sit here and act like the whole country was complicit in it. Oh, racism, stop us. And this is why, as a first generation American, I believe that I'm in the best position to actually judge whether America is really racist or not. Because I didn't get passed down preconceived notions from previous generations about how America is. A lot of black Americans, especially the older black Americans, the black African Americans, so-called black African Americans, they like to pretend that they use their personal experience and they try to cascade it against the backdrop of America as a whole. They want me to judge America where it was instead of where it's at. Oh, racism happened in 1991. It's 2024. Update your software, man. This is a new landscape. This is a new environment. You say systematic racism exists? Name me a law in the books that tells me I can't do something because of the color of my skin. Go. You can't. Everything's up here. Assumptions, fantasy, imagination. Black people suffer more from imagination than from reality. That's the truth. You're more frightened than hurt. You're more frightened than racism than you're actually hurt by racism. This is the reality of black America today. This is the reality of victimhood culture today. Your gender, your sex, your whatever you want to call yourself, however you want to label yourself, people always think they're a victim of something. When merely I see it as, no, that's a fantasy. That's you being frightened by imagination. When I ask for the reality, okay, tell me what's actually stopping you. Nothing. It's you. And this is why I think this is why victimhood is losing ground.